Once you have the ridge line established, then it's really quick to put that up. And then the other part of that is actually configuring your tarp or your poncho in a way that's suitable to the conditions you're facing, the conditions you're experiencing in the environment you're in. So I'm going to show you 3 configurations. And with this system, what I like the most about it is not only is it rapid deploy, ridge line, and getting these shelters up quickly, but there's a lot of different shelter configurations to choose from, and you can adapt it to changing conditions rather quickly without changing the ridge line. So this becomes the baseline, so we'll get that up first. So basically I come up to my anchor point, pull out what I need, come around the anchor point, and I'm going to use a toggled running bowl in here. Toggle that off, and I'm about waist high. If it was colder outside and I wanted to retain more body heat, I would make it probably knee high, a little bit smaller, or a little bit lower profile, a little easier to trap that heat in. Push that toggle right against the tree, pick up the rest of my ridgeline bundle, come around my far side anchor point, my second anchor point, and now I'm going to establish my trucker's hitch. Overhand slip. That gives me my fixed loop. Come around that anchor at the same height. Come through once. Come through a second time to create that round turn rolling hitch. I'm going to pull this as tight as I possibly can because this is going to stretch. There we go. Now I'm going to put a half hitch on a bite to establish a quick release. And this quick release I'm going to be using as part of my shelter. This is going to be one of my grommet points, one of my anchor points on my shelter. If this was too close to the tree and the terrain didn't allow that, then I can always slide my Prusik loops anywhere along this ridge line that's more suitable to where I want to put my shelter, and I can do it that way. I'm going to use this loop. If the conditions are bad and I want 3-sided coverage, the configuration that I'm typically going to use is a plow point configuration, also known sometimes as a diamond, or a wedge is another thing I've heard it called. But what I'm going to do is pick one of the corners of my tarp, and I'm going to take that loop that I created with that half hitch on a bite, that quick release, and I'm going to place that directly through one of the grommets. And then you can use another stick for a toggle, or you can just use one of your tent stakes, place it through there, and then pull that bite until it's down, secured against the tarp. And what this does a lot of times also is it saves your tarp because the tension is actually on the toggle rather than the grommet, and you'll have a lot less grommet tear out that way. And for this particular configuration, I like to sometimes bring this up a little higher because I'm taller. Now I've got this established. I'll come down to the opposite corner, and I'm pulling that tight, and this kind of becomes its own ridge line if you want to think of it that way. But I'm pulling tension that direction. And when you're staking, you always stake at an angle opposite to the tension. So this tension's coming this way, I want to stake opposing that. Put my stake in the ground there. Now I'm just going to stake out both wings, and I'll do the back side first, and then I'll come around and show you what I did on the front side. So what I'm doing is taking these corners and I'm pulling tension from this direction, keeping that nice and tight, and this direction. This is a great shelter for when conditions are not that great, because I've actually got three-sided coverage on this. The back side is covered and both sides are covered. My only opening is here in the front. And this gives me over 7 feet of coverage, so there's plenty of room for me and my gear. And if I wanted to have a small fire and take advantage of that, I could put that right here and I'm completely covered. So this is a configuration that I would use in particularly bad weather. I love this one for the winter, for cold weather. This is a diamond, plow point, wedge. All three mean the same thing. If I wanted to, I could easily adjust this and create other configurations. So I can unstake that. Change this around a little. I've still got this same loop. If the weather was a little bit nicer and I only wanted, basically one side of coverage, overhead coverage, and I wanted open front and open sides, I would turn this into a lean-to. Place that bite through the grommet, give it a toggle, pull on that quick release. Pull the other side. Take one of my Prusik loops. And I'm going to run the end of that Prusik loop through the grommet. And then I can take that Prusik and slide it to where the top of this is tight. And I just got to stake off the back. And now I've got a nice lean-to that gives me some overhead cover, but this is more of a fair weather, warmer weather type shelter configuration. So I've got open air to the sides and to the front. I can get a good convective breeze coming through for hotter weather. I've still got some protection with the overhead cover here from like a light rain or a flash storm that only lasts a few minutes. Good place to store my gear. So this is a lean-to configuration. Right now I'm using a reflective blanket, so if I had a fire out here at night, if it gets chilly, then I'm going to be able to take advantage of that radiant heat being reflected back to me. And conversely, if it was really hot weather, what I can do is flip this the other directions to where the reflective side is facing up and actually reflect that sun, reflect that radiant heat away from me, and it'll keep me a lot cooler in this shelter if that's the situation I'm dealing with. So this is the lean-to configuration for this system. Then if I want to quickly change this for changing conditions again, I can do what's called an A-frame or an A-frame fly. And for this one, you need kind of a lower ridge line. So I'll drop this down. If you have to, you can loosen this up. That should work. I'll come up over the top. And kind of get that centered on the ridge line. Stake off one corner here in the back. And when you're staking these corners, you want to stake opposing corners. So I started there. I'll come over to this side, get that tension right. Stake off this side and go to the opposite corner. So this is the A-frame configuration. In this case, the edges of it are touching the ground, but this gives me two-sided coverage. But depending on the orientation of this kind of tunnel that I've created here in hotter weather, if I don't want to get wet, but I still want to take advantage of a good convective breeze, this allows that breeze to blow through. And in bad weather, if the wind is coming this direction, there's not a lot that's going to get in here. So this is a good shelter configuration for that. If I'm not allowing enough heat to escape, then I can raise this up a little bit higher. And rather than have my edges all the way down to the ground in this A-frame configuration, I can do what's called an A-frame fly. I can basically fly the tarp to where the edges don't come down. I've got a little more convective breeze that can come through this way and go through that way, but I've still got two-sided coverage to keep me dry. So this is a great shelter for warmer weather, but still warm and rainy weather. You don't want to get wet. So those are the three main configurations, tarp configurations, all running off the exact same ridge line. So that is the 5-minute shelter system. Being able to put up the most appropriate shelter for the conditions you're facing rapidly is what this is known for. Within 5 minutes, you should be able to get your ridge line up and one of these three configurations based on your environment and your situation at the time. So that is the 5-minute shelter system. I'm just enjoying the stay, enjoying the weather. It's not even cold, even though one of your guys. What's that old song? What's that one song? Was that Rob Zombie or White Zombie? More humid than humid?
More humid than humid?
That's it, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was.
Sure.
Pretty sure it's humid. Tarp got loose in the night. Just slide your Prusik. Prusiks, they're not just for climbing anymore. Just the Prusik loops, hand tied by the gray-bearded green beret. Some people are that famous, I guess.